We're here with Professor Irvin John Doak, and he's here to discuss at the Fatima Conference, The Path to Peace, a controversial topic, seeing the satanic playing out from the beginning to the present. Dr. Doak, for those who support the Fatima Center and don't know about your work, could you tell us a bit about your background?
Well, my main area of interest and education is in the field of economics. I taught in the Department of Economics at St. Mary's University in Halifax for 37 years. But all along I've always been interested in theology, philosophy subjects, and I took a number of these in university back with my Bachelor of Commerce degree in the 1960s.
Okay, and now you're retired from teaching? And
I am, and now I have more time to allocate to theology and philosophy as well as economics.
Well, your topic, to those who are not accustomed to discussion of Catholic issues, especially non-Catholics, a title like Seeing the Satanic Play Out from Beginning to the Present would seem melodramatic. What do you mean by the satanic, first of all?
The satanic, of course, everyone realizes that there's a lot of evil in the world today. We complain about abortions, we complain about war, we complain about paganism. And so in our Roman Catholic faith, we appreciate that the devil has always been around, and he plays a significant role in the order of things.
And from what I gather about the theme of your talk, the devil, of course, is at war at all times against the good, but more specifically, he's at war at all times against the idea of peace in social order.
Yes.
And I believe you speak in your talk of a true and holy peace. We hear all the time about peace. It's a word that trips easily off the tongue, but peace is more than just the absence of warfare, isn't it?
Peace is found within the individual, is found within families and so forth. We know that peace only comes through God, and we must obey the ways of God. At our conference, we're particularly knowledgeable about Mary and how she and her son lead us to God, and but how the devil is always struggling and working against that.
Well, an example of peace that comes through the intercession of the Virgin Mary, and I believe you're going to speak on this, would be the miraculous turn of events in Mexico, following the apparitions of Our Lady of Guadalupe on Tepeyac Hill outside of Mexico City. How is that an example of true peace, the peace that is obtained through God and the souls of individuals?
Yes, at Guadalupe, if we recall some of the events that took place there, and we're going back now over 400 years ago, some of the Aztecs believed in these pagan gods, the moon god, sun god, and so forth, and they felt they had to sacrifice human hearts to satisfy these gods. And Our Lady appeared, and she showed them that these were all false gods, and she showed them the way to the true God. And she also, for our times too, she also showed herself as the woman of the Apocalypse, chapter 12 of the Revelations.
We have an image, and if I may use it for the camera, it's quite striking, and this is the image that you would see in the cathedral in Mexico City.
Yes.
It's been on display for, what, 500 years now. That's or right. More. And it has a lot of interesting elements. One of them would be that Our Lady is standing on top of something.
That's right.
What is it that she is standing on in this image?
She's standing on the crescent of the moon, which is a symbol, has always been a symbol of evil, with the changeableness in the world. And in the Revelations chapter 12, it also speaks about the woman standing on the moon and with the sun around her, and all these symbols are reflected in the image she left of herself on his mantle.
That's interesting. So the crescent moon, the symbol of evil, right. Our Lady is standing atop it. And now, to be really politically incorrect, what do we see in the Islamic symbol, the symbol of Islamic nations, but the crescent moon?
I know some people have asked me about that, and I must say that it's a symbol of evil, whether you like it or not.
Well, this is not a conference that shies away from controversy. Right now in Syria, people who march under that banner, the banner of the crescent moon, are killing Christians.
That's right.
In Baghdad, they bombed the Cathedral of Our Lady of Salvation and killed 58 Christians not too long ago. Christians have been fleeing Iraq under Muslim persecution. There are reports of people being stopped in the street in Iraq after so-called Operation Iraqi Freedom and being asked their names, and if the names appear to be Christian surnames, they were shot on the spot.
That's right. Yeah.
And people have fled Iraq into Syria as refugees from Muslim persecution in Iraq, and now the United States proposes to bomb Syria. An insane initiative which is on hold right now because of the quite extraordinary intervention of none other than Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
So I don't think it's unfair, although certainly it will be condemned as politically incorrect, to note that this symbol on which Our Lady is standing may well represent evil in the form of Islamicism, the militant Islamic creed, which all over the Middle East is now persecuting Christians. I think it's fair to say. And
I think it's fair to say, yes.
And so Our Lady, obviously, who is going to conquer all heresies, will certainly at the in the end conquer the Muslim heresy as well.
That's right.
And we should not be afraid to say that it is a heresy, and that it's a heresy which is inimical to the claims of the Church, especially the divinity of Christ Himself, whose Mother Mary is. You speak also about a theme of how the Satanic is played out from the beginning until now.
Yes.
It's a tall order, but can you sketch what you mean by that?
We have just got done speaking about Our Lady Guadalupe. She represents the woman in the apocalypse. And this woman is very important because it would be through this woman that the man-child would be born who would rule the world with an iron rod. Of course, we believe that this is our Lord Jesus, born of Mary. However, what's very upsetting is that there are so many in the church who have been misled by this. There is a false prophet at play here, which has discredited all this. They don't believe that Mary is the woman of the Revelations. They would have us believe anything but that. And the curious thing is this: Mary has come to us herself, shown us this image. She says, "I am the woman of the Revelations." And yet we have those in the church, especially after 1963, who are saying this woman is not the woman of the Revelations.
Well, then who is it?
That's right. Who is it?
If not she.
Last year, at a conference, they told me that, it could mean Eve, it could mean the church. Maybe it's not a woman, it's just the people of God, something like that. This is what priests and philosophers and theologians are talking about these days. It's one of the most intensely studied passages in the whole Testament, chapter 12. And why is it intensely studied? Because it is important. And evil won't be crushed unless we get a better understanding of who this woman is.
You know, I find this fascinating. I understand it in a superficial way, the reference to the woman clothed in the sun in the book of Revelations. But then we see the woman clothed in the sun at Fatima, and we see a woman very much like that in the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
That's right, yes.
And there is this attempt, you're right, since 1963, to downplay the obviously crucial role in salvation history of this woman clothed in the sun, who is none other than the Mother of God, the Blessed Virgin Mary. What's the motive behind this? Why, since 1963, has this happened?
There has emerged in the church a modernist movement, which was evident even before 1960. It's evident in how they've changed the Catholic Bibles. In the Catholic Bibles now, and this is another portion of my paper, shows there that Mary has been downgraded, and it's important because if she's downplayed and downgraded and not accepted as the woman of Revelations, then neither is her son Jesus, the one who will come to rule the world with an iron rod. It's got to be somebody else. Who is it? We don't know. Maybe he's going to come in the future. It's somebody, people of God, children of the people of God. You see the fuzzy area in which the false prophet of the church has left us. Moreover, If you read further into the Catholic Bibles that are being put out these days, it's saying that they, the children of the woman, whoever she is, will strike the head of the serpent. I'm basing this on Genesis 3:15 now, and the serpent will strike back at their heel. Nothing. This wording is not consistent with the traditional wording of the woman crushing the head of the snake.
Oh, do you mean to tell me that in modernist Bible translations, the woman whose heel will be struck at by the serpent and who will crush the head of the serpent has been replaced by a group of people?
That's right.
Oh, I never knew this. I mean, I thought I was au courant with the latest modernist.
Well, I'm just looking at New American Bibles and things like that and drawing all this out.
They pluralized
Moreover, one can draw the inference from all this, and I think this is a fair inference, is that, well, the traditionalists argue that Satan is not like God. In the modernist version, it's almost saying that he is like God, because he is not, the woman does not crush the snake. They simply strike back and forth.
Are you serious?
That's it. That's how it reads.
Tell me a little bit more about that. How is that actually done in these new translations? Maybe you could paraphrase a little bit more about how they revise this.
In the traditional, it said, God spoke to the serpent, and he said, I will place enmities between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed, and she shall crush your head, and you will lie and wait for her heel. That is what we always understood. That's what is reflected in the miraculous medal.
Genesis 3:15.
Genesis 3:15. How does it read today? God says to the serpent, I'm going to place enmity between you and the woman. Of course, the modernists don't believe that this is Mary, mind you. It's the people of God. So there's enmity between the people of God and the seed of Satan. Okay? And she's going to, the people of God are going to strike your head, Satan. Strike, not crush, strike. Bang.
No victory.
A little blow.
Yeah, no victory.
Well, you are going to strike their heel. Now that's a convenient little striking back and forth match, isn't it? It's got nothing though, that's nothing compared to what the traditionalist version is. The woman will crush the head of the snake.
So in the New American Bible, which I believe you're paraphrasing, there's this back and forth, kind of some light jabs in a boxing ring.
That's right, yeah.
But there's no final victory. There's no crushing of Satan.
Because Satan is like, after all, Satan must be just as powerful as God.
This is
the New Age error, right?
It sounds like the yin and the yang of Oriental philosophy. There's a good principle in the universe and a bad principle, and they're eternally in conflict, and that's the way it is.
And this is what Satan told Eve. This is how he deceived her. He said, eat of the fruit of the tree of good and evil, knowledge of good and evil, and you'll be like God.
Well, you talk about scriptural linkages, which would indicate how satanic influence plays out over the centuries down to the present day. Other than this one, what are there some other spiritual or rather scriptural linkages you would like to discuss?
The reason for looking into this and finding it important is because this gives evidence of a false prophet in the church. And I know that through your books you've also shown many signs of a false prophet at work in the church.
Yes, those who pretend to be oracles of the message of Fatima.
Now, the false prophet from the book, from the Apocalypse, we realize the false prophet, although he's important, he's there serving another beast, which St. John called the beast of the sea. Who is this beast of the sea? Well, he has 7 heads. 7 heads on a beast, on a dragon. Well, Mary, our Blessed Virgin, explained this to Venerable Mary of Agreda, that these 7 heads are the 7 demons, prince demons, principalities and powers that specialize in the 7 capital sins: pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, etc. This is the spiritual side of the beast of the sea. The flesh and blood side, I argue in my paper, has to do with money and banking, because in the book of the Apocalypse it says the false prophet will require all to bear the mark of the beast in order to buy and sell. No one will be able to buy and sell unless they have the mark of the beast. And so it plays into the area of economics and money and banking. And therefore, it requires us, forces us to look into the world of money and banking. You know, one author I think in The Third Secret of Fatima, one of the books that we have here, it states that the false prophet is a religious power, the beast of the sea is a political power. But we also realize that the political power today, as one of our papers discussed this morning, has been taken over by global institutions such as the Bank for International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank. These are the powers that are ruling the world at the present time. Moreover, there are many websites that are now saying that the beast is a conglomerate or a cartel of banking organizations, which will eventually require everyone to have an inscription on their hand or forehead in order to buy or sell. So these are the areas that people are looking at, and this is the flesh and blood side of the beast of the sea, if you like. This is how he can be manifest.
Even the secular...
And through that, and through this way, Satan will have not only the one world government, the one world church, and Babylon will be extant. It will be, and this is where we will find abortions and paganism, etc. Yeah.
This is fascinating, the interrelationship between the world corporate hegemon, government, and the whole process of centralization. People have lost sight of the other half of the problem. Government is one half. The economic hegemon, these transnational corporations, which actually have more impact on our daily lives than government, that is overlooked. And when I say that corporations have more impact on our daily life than governments do, when you think about it, they dictate what we will eat, what we will wear, what gadgets we will have, the cars we drive. Of course, the power grid is supplied through these major corporations. Our entire lives are dependent upon corporate activity. And the loss of a job, for example, is more catastrophic to the individual than any daily government intrusion. It could be the end of your life, especially if you're without health benefits. Corporations spy on the people who work for them. There's no right to privacy within the corporate domain. They can go through your email, they can search your desk. They also have private security forces, many of which are larger than the armies of some nations. And some of these international or transnational corporations have larger capital at their disposal than or is available to certain small nations. So these are state-like entities which seem to have entered into symbiotic relationships with governments, such that the two become one.
If I can interrupt you, Chris, you remember Our Lady of Fatima talked about the annihilation of nations. And if governments, national governments, are going to be under the control of these global institutions, already nations have been, for all intents and purposes, annihilated. Their decision-making doesn't mean anything, just as John McManus was talking about this morning.
That's a fascinating point. Now, this idea of the mark of the beast, people laugh at that. Oh, this is apocalyptic nonsense. And yet, open up the newspapers, every so often you'll see a story in which even a secular reporter is saying, could this be the mark of the beast? So you'll see, for example, stories on proposals for implanting chips in people, just underneath the flesh. Why bother with a credit card? Just have the chip implanted, pass your hand over the scanner, and then you can conduct your commercial transactions. Everything will be routed through your digitized bank account. Just put this little chip in you. And there are some people who are saying, well, gee, I'm getting a chip.
Sure. Because
I would like to be one of the, the early adopters of this technology. It would be so convenient.
It's probably getting inconvenient for somebody now to have to search for their credit card, pull it out, and say, here is my card, and so forth. And why not? Sure.
Well, and then how long will it be once these chips come into use if people start getting them implanted? some of them have already done this, before it becomes mandatory.
That's
You can't buy any goods or check into a hotel without the embedded chip. Where's your chip?
I should mention that these cards now are all over the world. You know, there's something like one card for every 3 people in the world.
That's amazing.
They're up in the
And we have
billions.
6 billion people in the world.
2 billion cards. They're in every country of the world today. And this all happened within about space of about 40 years. You know that Visa processes these cards through San Francisco. They can process 20,000 transactions per second. These cards are found through thousands of institutions, and all the banks have them. This is how transactions are done today, and it's quite you know, it's for someone that was born 70 years ago. This is quite a revolution, you know.
I'll say, what kind of information is actually contained in a credit card? That's another mysterious fact of which people have little awareness. What are you carrying around in that card in terms of personal information?
I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing, Chris. When I went to my hotel room the other day, I couldn't open the door because the card they gave me was beside the credit card. They said you can't have that card beside this one because it will prevent the other from your other card unlocking the door. So you wonder, what power does this thing have? You know?
Well, I know certain information must be circulated in a way that is quite eerie, because there seems to be a knowledge on the part of this worldwide beast of what you might be interested in buying.
That's right.
Somehow mysterious solicitations arrive in your email box about something that you had considered purchasing before, or maybe you had purchased before, and now it's time for the new model to come out, and lo and behold, you get a message in your email suggesting that you buy this product. How is that happening? So you see there's a kind of an integration into a matrix, as it were, like the movie.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people that seem to be onto this, researching it, and but I see it proceeding down the road as something it's evolving into something that we really don't understand. But I would, if we want to put it in the context of what we're doing at this conference, I see this as part of the growing problem of evil in the world, which I don't think has reached its zenith power as yet. And I think that from our point of view, I think there are 2 things I think we'd be interested in. One is that the evil will continue to become more powerful, I think, and it will be manifested in its zenith, at the height of its power, in the cessation, I believe, of our holy sacrifice of the Mass. But it will also be manifested in another way, and that is why this conference is important, by the resistance, the strong resistance on the part of the slaves of Mary, people devoted to Mary, consecrated to Mary, who will stand up to this beast, and she will use them to form her heel. This is what St. Louis de Montfort said. She will use them to form her heel, which will crush the head of the beast.
Interesting. Now, that brings us to a fitting note on which to conclude. What would you say is the relationship between the period of peace promised by Mary, if the consecration of Russia is performed, and the ultimate end of humanity, the end of history in the apocalypse itself? Some are now saying that, well, it's too late now, we're heading to the apocalypse, there will be no period of peace. And so the triumph of the Immaculate Heart is in fact the end of the world itself. Do you subscribe to that view?
Not at all, no. The Sister Lucy told us if we were to uncover the 3rd secret of Fatima, the 1960 secret, she said, read the Apocalypse, chapter 7 to 13, which I've done, that's what I'm researching, along with the Gospels. And she said, there you'll find the secret unfolded. And in the book of the Apocalypse, towards the end, it tells us that the triumph, well, in so many words, that the triumph of the heart of Mary will take place. Not quite in those words, but it speaks about the New Jerusalem, about the city of Mary as a city of Jerusalem as opposed to Babylon, and how the nations will eventually come to realize that they've got to walk in that city of the holy city, the city of Mary, as opposed to the city of Babylon. And so this will come about. This is the era of peace promised by Our Lady.
And this is before the actual end times.
Oh, this is before the end of the world. It's the part of end times, and it also says there that the Babylon will fall. The kings of the earth will weep because no one will buy and the merchants won't be able to sell things anymore. There'll be quite a change over in things, but the false prophet and the beast of the sea, these tools of Satan, these beasts will be thrown into the pool of fire, thrown into hell. Satan will be chained for 1,000 years, and we'll have that era of peace promised by Our Lady.
I think it would be essential, in view of what you're suggesting, that we do obtain finally the Virgin's own explanation of the third secret of Fatima,
Indeed.
which would confirm or perhaps refute this understanding of the Book of the Apocalypse. This has been fascinating. I look forward to your talk, and I thank you for spending this time with us here to discuss it.
You're quite welcome.
I have come to warn the faithful to amend their lives and ask pardon for their sins. They must not continue to offend our Lord, who is already deeply offended.